Researchers once built a simulation, 1,000 people, and the talent spread out the normal way, the way it is in any room, same starting line for everyone, and then they let random luck, good and bad, hit those people across a simulated career. At the end, they looked at who came out on top. And the most successful person was almost never the most talented one. Hold on to that. It's a model, not real world data, so don't take it as proof of anything yet. But by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why it keeps coming out that way and what it means for you. Some people just seem lucky. Things fall into place for them, opportunities find them, and it's tempting to think that they were born under a different star than you. I'm a psychiatrist, so let me tell you what the evidence actually shows. Lucky people are reliably doing something, a set of measurable things, none of them supernatural, that quietly tilt the odds in their favor. By the end, you'll know what those things are, and one of them is something you can start doing today. There's also a harder truth in here that most make-your-own-luck videos won't tell you. Okay, the one the simulation pointed at. I'll get to it, so stay with me. Here's a moment you probably lived. Someone you know catches a break, a lucky break, the right conversation, the right opening at the right time. And a quiet voice in you says, that never happens to me. Why it doesn't happen to me? So you start to believe that luck is a fixed trait, something you either have or you don't. That belief is expensive for you. If luck is just fate, there's nothing to do but wait. You stop looking, you stop reaching out, you narrow down, you close, you don't open up to the world. And narrowing is exactly the thing that makes people miss the luck right in front of them. Narrowing is what makes people unlucky. That's not a metaphor. There's a real mechanism in how attention works that makes opportunities literally invisible to you when you are locked in and anxious. That's where we start. Here's the plan. First, why focused, anxious attention makes you blind to what's right there. And then the 4 things that lucky people actually do differently, including one about who you talk to that was tested on more than 20 million people. Okay, and at the end, the honesty, where you make your own luck is true and where it simply isn't, because something bigger is running the show. That's the part the simulation was warning us about. I want you to hear it clearly. It's what keeps this real. Let me describe one of the most reliable findings in all of cognitive psychology. People were asked to watch a short video and count how many times a ball gets passed between players. Simple task, and in the middle of it, a person in a gorilla suit walks straight into the scene, faces the camera, and walks off. And roughly half of the people never saw the gorilla. Not because they are inattentive, they were counting the passes. Because they were focused on the passes, their attention was a narrow spotlight locked on the task. Okay, anything outside that spotlight, even something as obvious as a gorilla dancing in the middle of the floor, never reached awareness. Now, hold that next to luck. Opportunities you aren't attending to are, in a real sense, invisible to you, just as like that gorilla. They can be right there in the room in front of you, and if your spotlight is locked elsewhere, you don't see them. And here's where it gets practical. Okay, what controls how wide or narrow that spotlight is? Your emotional state. Depending on how you feel, is your focus locked in or narrow? And depending on how you feel, your focus can be narrow or expanding. There's a long-standing idea in psychology that as arousal rises, you get into fight or flight, the range of things you take in narrows. And modern work refines it, and the refinement matters. It isn't arousal in general. It's threat. It's anxiety. When you feel under threat, when you feel anxious, your attention tunnels. You have tunnel vision. When you're relaxed, curious, open, you're having a good time, the spotlight stays wide. So the lucky people isn't receiving magical signals from the universe. they are holding an open, low anxiety, attentional state. In that state, they simply notice more of what's already there. That's the first lever, and it's the most evidence-backed. So lower the threat level, widen the aperture, and a calmer nervous system is almost literally luckier one. By noticing opportunities, you become luckier. And noticing opportunities isn't enough if they never reach you in the first place, which brings me to the most underrated factor of all. Think about the last big opportunity that came to you through another person. A job, an introduction, a door opening. There's a famous piece of social science about exactly this. A researcher studied people who'd recently found jobs through a personal contact. The counterintuitive result is that most of them found it not through close friends, but through acquaintances, weak ties. The reason is elegant. Your close friends mostly know what you already know. They move in your world. But a loose acquaintance of yours lives in a different world and carries information, openings, and connections that you'd never reach on your own. Weak ties are bridges, everything outside your bubble. And this isn't just an old theory. It was tested at enormous scale. A multi-year randomized experiment ran on a professional networking platform across more than 20 million people. The finding held. Moderately weak ties produced the biggest increase in people actually changing jobs. So the trait that lucky people share here is simple: openness, a bit of extraversion, a willingness to talk to people slightly outside their circle. That mechanically exposes them to more weak ties, and more weak ties means more novel opportunities arriving. You don't have to become an extrovert. You just have to widen your circle a little. One unfamiliar conversation a week is a luck-generating behavior. That's lever two. Now, what happens inside a lucky person when an opportunity shows up? So, lucky people tend to expect things to work out. And there's a real science that this matters. People with what's called dispositional optimism, a general expectation that outcomes will be good in general, tend to cope more actively, persist longer, and do better across a range of measures. There is a well-known study of insurance salespeople, a brutal job built on constant rejection. The optimists outsold the pessimists every single time, and the pessimists were far more likely to quit. The exact numbers shift depending on which version of the study you read, so I won't pin one on you, but the direction is rock solid. Optimists stayed in the game longer, and staying in the game longer produced far more results. So that's the actual mechanism, and it's important you hear it correctly. The optimism doesn't summon good outcomes directly, it changes your behavior. Optimists take more shots, absorb rejection better, and keep going, keep persisting. They have more grit, as Angela Duckworth said. More attempts over time means more hits. And the luck that you are looking for is downstream of persistence. But here's the line you must not cross. As a psychiatrist, this is the part I most want you to get right. Useful optimism is not the same as fantasizing that you have already succeeded. Expecting good things and then acting helps. Sitting with a warm feeling of the finished result without doing anything is a different thing entirely, and the research says it backfires. I covered this in depth in another video that you can find here, but here's the core. Studies on vividly imagining your desired outcome as already achieved found it actually lowered people's energy and effort. The mind partially consumes the reward in fantasy, and the drive to act drains away. You can see more if you want in this video here. So, optimism works when it's a launchpad for action. It fails when it becomes a recliner. Okay, expect a good outcome, then pair it with the obstacle and a concrete plan for what you will do. That's the version that makes people lucky. There's one more lever lucky people lean on, and it's the most misunderstood. intuition. Lucky people often say they follow the gut feeling. This is exactly the kind of claim I'm cautious about because it's easy to romanticize. Okay, so let me give you the honest version. There is good evidence that intuition is real, indeed, but only as a pattern recognition and only under two specific conditions. Okay, this comes from a landmark agreement between two researchers who usually disagreed. One studied expert decision making, and the other studied bias. They agreed that your gut is trustworthy only when 1. You are in an environment with stable, learnable patterns, and 2. You've had enough experience with real feedback to actually learn those patterns. A chess master, firefighter, an experienced nurse, their hunches are compressed expertise. They're reading patterns that they have earned through experience. But in a low validity environment, like picking stocks, predicting far off events, there are no stable patterns to learn. There, a gut feeling is just superstition wearing a lab coat. And here's a sharp edge. How confident the hunch feels tells you nothing about whether it's accurate. So the rule is clean. Trust your gut where you have genuine, feedback rich experience. Be skeptical of it everywhere else. That's not anti intuition, that's knowing where your intuition has earned the right to speak. Which brings me back to where we started the simulation, the honest part. Remember the 1,000 people from the start. Here's how the simulation actually worked because the detail is the point. Everyone got a talent score, spread the normal way. Most people clustered near the middle, a few low, a few high, some starting capital or all. Then, across a simulated career, random events hit them. A lucky event lets you grow, but only in proportion to your talent. And an unlucky event cuts you down regardless of how talented you were. Run it again and again and again, and a strange thing happens every time. The biggest winner is almost never the most gifted. In the original run, the most successful agent had close to average talent. The single most talented person finished near the bottom. Not because talent did nothing, but because the most gifted people rarely got the right run of luck, and one stretch of bad luck cut them down anyway. Now, I want to be honest about this because honesty is the whole point of this channel. Okay, it's a model, not real data, and the researchers have pushed back on it. The result partly depends on assumptions that the authors chose, like how rare these life events are, and give people more chances for talent to show, and talent close back some ground. So don't hear talent is useless. It's not. That's not the claim, and it isn't true. Okay, but what survives the criticism is the part that matters. When outcomes multiply over time, the people at the very top are disproportionately the ones randomness favored. That's a real statistical truth, actually, and it holds well beyond this one model. Everything I have described, open attention, weak ties, optimism that drives action, earned intuition, generally improves your odds. But it works at the margin. Okay, it tilts the dice. It does not control the game. When outcomes compound, the extreme winners are disproportionately the ones randomness favored. Add to that where you were born, whom, with what resources, your starting conditions, and the honest picture comes into focus. So, here's the truth I owe you instead of a clean motivational lie. The psychology of luck is real, and it's worth practicing. Okay, it improves your odds of noticing and converting the opportunities that come your way, but does not control the big outcomes of a life. Randomness and starting position dominate the extremes. But you have to start wondering, do you care about the extremes? You can't control the dice, but you can pick up more dice. And you can train yourself to notice more of the sixes that you roll. That's not a smaller message. To me, it's more of a freeing one. You stop blaming yourself for the dice and you put your energy where it actually works. So, what do lucky people actually do? They hold an open, low anxiety attention so they notice what others miss. They keep a wider circle of loose connections, which brings them new opportunities from outside their bubble of life experiences. They carry an optimism that drives action and persistence, not fantasy. They trust their gut only when and where they have earned real expertise. And underneath it all, this raises your odds at the margin. It doesn't control the dice. So pick up more dice, lower the anxiety, widen the circle, and keep moving. Here's my question to you, and I'd genuinely like to read your answer in the comments. Which of the four would change the most for you if you actually practiced it? Open attention, more weak ties, action driven optimism, or earned intuition? Just name one and why. And of those four, only one is fully in your hands today, the anxiety one, the state your nervous system is in right now while you watch this video. That's a skill and it's trainable. If you want to see how, that's most of what I do in this channel. So if this gave you a cleaner, calmer way to think about luck, the like and subscribe helps it reach more people. Subscribe and stick around for more of how the mind actually works without the hype. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.